One of the first decisions you're gonna have to make as a backyard chicken owner is, do you want to free range your chickens like I do here on the homestead and have them free roam the backyard, or do you want to put them in a run attached to a coop? The biggest concern that people have about free ranging their chicken is the idea of losing them to predators, specifically hawks. And in my area here, as you can see behind me, I am completely surrounded by trees here on the homestead, and so hawks can be a bit of a problem. We have tried absolutely everything to deter hawks. When we moved onto this property a couple of months ago, we lost 4 chickens and a duck to a hawk in less than a month. And so I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the things that we have tried that have failed, and something that has actually worked and that I would endorse for the rest of my life for hawk prevention. So come hang out today at Be On Our Homestead. You know, the really frustrating part about moving here and seeing hawks everywhere was the fact that at our old property, it was wooded very similar to this, and we literally didn't see a hawk for the entire 2 years that we lived there. And so we thought, why would we be seeing a lot of hawks now? Why are we losing all of our chickens and ducks to hawks now when we didn't for years in a pretty similar environment? Then we realized that at our old property, on the other side of the woods that backed up to our house was a baseball field. There was a lot of sound and noise and loud cracks and cheering and yelling at pretty much a constant basis, and so that's why we didn't actually see a hawk issue pretty much the entire time that we lived there. But when we moved here, we were in a much more rural setting. We're kind of set off from the road quite a bit, and there's a pond about 200 yards away, and so there were pond hawks kind of flying all over the place, and we would see them often, and we thought that the goats being out here and our dog running around would really prevent an attack from happening. We found out pretty quickly that that really wasn't the case at all. So we're continuing the friendship saga between me and Waffles. He likes a nice in between the horn scratch here. These two still decided they don't really like me much, but we're working on it. That's Clover closest to us and Bluebell. But Waffles is a man of the head scratches, and we like that. So our first thought was, let's add sound to the backyard. So we got ourselves a nice loud wind chime like this, but we soon realized that we hung it way too low to the ground. We were using these shepherd's hooks, and it ended up just not being a very viable option, because unless it was like a 20-mile-an-hour wind gust, which is kind of convenient that it started gusting right there, unless it was like 20 miles an hour, these things weren't really doing anything. And pretty much like the day after we hung this up, we walked in the backyard and there was a chicken who had been eaten up by a hawk not just 4 feet from this wind chime, and so that didn't work. So we really had to try to go to our next option, but this could still be a viable option for anyone who's looking to prevent hawks. Adding some noise, whether it's an air horn that you have stashed away in your house, so that when a hawk comes out, you could just blow it really loud to send it off, you know, running away. Or if you want some wind chimes or some other ways to have some louder noise in your backyard. You know, we've got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, and I thought them running around in the backyard every day screaming like they do would be preventative enough to keep a hawk away, but it just didn't work for us. Our next attempt was this bobble-headed bozo right here. Did you work? He's emphatically saying no. People recommend using decoys in your backyard because hawks don't like a ton of competition. And so that's something that we tried. But once again, that maybe worked for about a day or two until the hawk ultimately figured out what was going on. And of course, we walk outside. All the chickens are hiding in every possible corner that they could. And we found one of our poor lavender Orpingtons up against the fence who had just been freshly eaten up by a hawk. And so that was our second loss. And by the end of all of this, we ended up losing 4 chickens and a duckling to the hawk. And so the decoys weren't working. The sound wasn't working. Like, we were trying multiple different wind chimes. Like, we have another swan one right here, but nothing just seemed to be working. We were feeling really devastated. We were trying to get to a point where we were thinking, okay, how much would it be to actually enclose this whole 1/4 acre chicken area in hawk netting? I even had people give me ideas of like stringing up CDs across to get some really bright, you know, shiny reflective material out there to try to keep them away. But nothing was really working until we finally got one piece of advice that I will now recommend for the rest of my life, and it is the one thing that has genuinely prevented a hawk attack ever since we got it. You know, we started feeling defeated when nothing was working, and we really started thinking, like, do we need to rethink free ranging our chickens in the backyard? But the thing was, if at all possible, I wanted to avoid that option because I want free range chickens. I want my chickens to live the happiest, healthiest life they possibly can. And for me, I believe that that is free range, giving them as much space and grass and bugs and grubs as humanly possible to walk around, be in the sun all day. I want that if at all possible, but I really wasn't willing to lose a chicken every single day to do so. And so we really had to dig deep in ideas on how can we prevent hawks from showing up and taking all of our chickens, because it just becomes a waste of money and time, because we're brooding all of these chicks just to lose them to hawks before we even get an egg from them, and it was really painful and annoying. And then finally, we got an idea from Instagram, and we have not lost a single chicken to a hawk in over a month now. And so I want to present to you guys the sergeant, the guardian of the day, our wavy, flappy arm man. Now, when we were at our most desperate, we decided to go ahead and spend about 130 bucks on a 6-foot American flag wavy arm man. And what that does is it provides really two things. It provides a lot of noise because that fan in there is really loud. I'm not sure if you can hear it there. And it also provides a lot of movement. Two things that hawks don't really want a lot to do with. They really want a confident attack, and they can't do so when there's a lot of movement and a lot of noise coming from the backyard. And so this has helped a lot. I also think our roosters are going to be a bigger help moving forward because they are maturing. Both of our roosters have started crowing in the last couple of weeks, and they're getting much bigger and much more protective over our hens. So I'm sure that's going to add an added benefit to protecting our flock from hawks. But that's really the number one thing I would recommend is if you have the space and if you're okay with an American flag wavy arm man flapping in your backyard at all times, I would really recommend you do so. It has worked wonders for us. We haven't even moved it yet. It's been on that stump for a month and we haven't had any issues. If it starts becoming an issue again, we'll start moving it around the backyard. But ultimately, hawks are a huge problem. It's probably one of the number one reasons why people don't like to free range their chickens, because they don't want to lose them to predators. Now, ultimately, you can't protect your chickens from absolutely everything, but you can put some systems in place to make it a lot safer for them. Like, I'm assuming that at some point I'm going to lose a chicken to a hawk again. I don't think this is going to be the forever solution, but this has been an amazing solution, one that we're going to continue to use, and I will put 3 or 4 of these things in my backyard if I have to. And so now that we have the hawk problem figured out, my next order of business is to completely fix this T-post and wire fence that I did a terrible job building a couple of months ago. I want to actually put a wood fence back here, make it a little bit more secure, because my goats have decided that nothing can keep them contained. They are absolute escape artists. They just go under the fence pretty much whenever they want. They're always in the road, the neighbor's yard. We got people knocking on our door. These goats are outside of our property more than they are inside. I'm just really glad that they love animal crackers. That's the only thing that keeps them wanting to hang out with us, is the fact that we feed them animal crackers whenever they want. So that's going to be kind of the next order of business. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you're following along here at B&R Homestead to get some more of this long form content aside from everything that we do on TikTok and Instagram. I'm really glad you guys are here. Hawk Preventative, make sure you guys get a wavy arm man. I'll put the link to the one we got in the description below, and I'll see you guys next week.